And good morning, evening, or afternoon, depending on what part of the globe you're on and what time zone you are in. I'm your host, Skeptically Speaking.
And I am your co-host, Sweet Pea from across the pond.
And what a show we have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in and not tuning out. If you want more independent media in your life, please consider supporting the show. You can do that in one of three ways: Cash App, Venmo, or become a Patreon subscriber. Links are down in the description. You can follow us on all the social medias. Links are there as well. How are you doing, Sweet Pea?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing today, Skeptically?
I am knocking back these sweet teas with vodka infusion. And instead of ice, I'm doing... you can't see them. Damn it. Oh, they're green. They're green grapes. They don't show up because I'm... Okay, green screen effect.
They look like pink grapes. They look like pink grapes.
That is green. Come on, you can't tell me that's not green.
That's pink.
Anyway, what can I say? I'm liking it. I'm liking it better than ice this time. I needed a break. But we're here. We're here. What a show we have for you today. But I tell you what, I am thirsty. I'm going to go ahead and grab myself a second tea I didn't think I needed. So while I'm buggering off for a drink, why don't you tell us what's been in the news? Read us the highlights, if you would, please.
Give me a second.
Faster, faster.
All right, here's what we got going on in the world news. U.S. strikes hit Iran for the 7th consecutive night. Oh, that is a nightmare. Sorry, tractor. Anyways, Trump threatens Canada with tariffs over invading wildfire smoke. Can you imagine charging a country tariffs for smoke that they can't control coming over the border? Because all of a sudden, Canada's gained the power to be able to wield the wind to blow the smoke over there just to annoy Americans. Imagine that. Imagine that. Trump is so stupid. Sorry, could you...
No, that's true.
I was trying to be sarcastic. Me and sarcasm don't go together. More than 100 homes destroyed as firefighters battle Norway blaze. I hope they get that under control. I hope Canada managed to get their wildfires under control. Ukrainian drones reportedly attack Russia's Tamboy Oblast online retail's filament center. Good on Ukraine. I hope they blow many of the Russians up. Well, the buildings, the infrastructures that are important.
What's going on in venture capital billionaire world?
So you've got a billionaire named Brian Johnson. He's been having platelets taken from his son and injected into himself to keep himself young. He's like a longevity guru. He's just been diagnosed with a lifelong serious untreatable stomach disease where the stomach is eating itself. So it doesn't matter how many millions of dollars you pay to try and stay young, death is always one step away behind you. No matter how much you try to run from the Grim Reaper, people will always die, regardless of how young, old, or whatever. It is a sad reality of being alive. I just wish vampires lived, because like I would totally let a vampire bite me for like
Yeah, there's another
eternal life.
bullshit
There
artist
is
that's doing the
another.
same thing.
Yes.
Peter
Yes.
Thiel was injecting himself
Yes.
with his son's blood.
Yeah, I was just about to get to him as well. That's another.
Ugh.
Yeah. Did you know that Peter Thiel also was talking to Epstein for 5 years before Epstein died, and they even talked about Brexit? Very curious.
Didn't he just move to Brazil?
I think he's trying to escape allegations or litigations of some. He's running away. He's trying to hide in Brazil. They're going to deport his ass, I'm sure.
Well, don't be too quick to think that, because places like Argentina, Paraguay, Brazil, a lot of fascists seem to migrate down that direction. And nothing has changed.
Speaking of nothing has changed, Donald Trump is now posting redacted, unclassified documents trying to support his claim that China interfered in the 2020 election. But there has been rumours going around. I will send the screenshot to you so you can have a look. That supposedly Russia interfered with Trump's 2016 election. So I'm going to go send that to you now so you can read. It's a mess.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just amazing to me how the circle is small. All of these billionaires supporting each other and, just involved in these fascist coups and takeovers. It's like unbelievable. It's like every one of these billionaires need to be put on a rocket and just yeeted to Mars and let them figure it out. Oh, you want to colonize Mars? Sure. We'll send you on a one-way ticket. One-way ticket, baby.
So this was excremented on excrement by a Sam Stein. This is really incredible. Docs released by Trump tonight confirm Russia tried to spread claims Biden was engaged in criminal activity via rumor, and that it advanced those narratives with US officials and planned a high-profile corruption scandal at the peak of the 2020 US presidential campaign. So that's a very interesting fact that Sam Steen is pointing out. And in there, circled off, is President Putin and Senator Russian officials are overseeing efforts by proxies to spread claims about former Vice President Biden, as well as Ukrainian politicians and alleged Ukrainian influence in the 2016 US election. These claims include that when the former vice president was in office, he engaged in criminal activities in dealing with Ukraine and individuals tied to Ukrainian energy firm Burisma. I can't pronounce this other guy's name, and another proxy actors. Declassified by Trump, 3rd of July 2026. Affiliated with the Russian government are advancing such narratives with US officials and other prominent persons, as well as online, including through personal interactions and audio and documentary films released via US and Ukrainian media outlets. These figures are conspiring to intensify their efforts as the elected approach to orchestrate a high-profile corruption scandal implicating former Vice President Biden and the Democrat Party at the peak of the 2020 US presidential campaign. Their aim is to defeat the former Vice President and ensure that President's victory. Some of these proxy actors anticipate the Ukrainian-themed narratives about the democratic corruption will play a decisive role in the election, and that US persons are key to propagating these narratives. That's quite interesting, really, isn't it? Trump is literally posting proof to like tell on himself. We'll see what else is in the news. How about a 29-year-old man, German American, enacted Sharia law to avoid sitting next to a woman, then decided to punch an air stewardess in the face. Absolutely disgusting. Men are not lonely enough.
That is true. That is true. All right. Well, that's the highlights, folks. It doesn't get much better than that, but we want to switch gears here because we're going to read to you the UN report. It's really important that we document these cases of abuse that have been going on, the terror that has been inflicted on the Palestinian people. It is just beyond horrendous. Anything you could possibly imagine, it's 10 times worse than that. 10 times worse. And it's important for us to educate ourselves so that we know what we're talking about and we don't let these Zionist terrorists, Zio-terrorists, decide the conversation. They don't get to lead the conversation. They're a bunch of murderous thugs, and this is what they're supporting. So let's get into it. I hope this tea lasts because this is going to be a pretty lengthy report, and we're going to try to get through as much of it as we can. We'll do our best. So basically, the summary of this report is this. The document that we're going to be reading is from the Human Rights Council. This is the 62nd session. Basically, it's the essence of childhood has been destroyed. Israel's deliberate targeting of Palestinian children in the occupied Palestinian territory since October 7th, 2023. By the way, these abuses go way back. You can go back to 1948. And the absolute horrendous conditions that these people have been subject to is just been fucking diabolical. I don't know how else to describe it, but it is sickening. Very sickening. So, Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the Occupied Palestinian Territory, including East Jerusalem and Israel. So, the summary is this. The Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the Occupied Palestinian Territory, including East Jerusalem and Israel, examines violations and crimes against the affecting Palestinian children, including serious physical and psychological harm by the Israeli security forces since October 7th, 2023, resulting in the death of at least 20,000 children and injury of 44,000 children. The paper describes the deliberate targeting and killing of Palestinian children, including post-ceasefire since the October 2025 Gaza peace talk plan. The commission also examines a sharp increase in violence perpetrated by members of the Israeli settlers against Palestinian children in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. The Commission examines the use of torture, inhumane, and degrading treatment, including sexual and gender-based violence against Palestinian children, particularly during mass arrests and in detention. It analyzes the pattern of Israel's targeting of critical infrastructure essential to children, such as the healthcare facilities and its short to long-term consequences, as well as the impact of reproductive violence on newborns, resulting in poor neonatal health and birthing outcomes, attacks on orphanages and schools, impacting the loss of care for orphans and unaccompanied children, and inducing academic harm and learning disruptions for children, respectively. Commission examines the impact of the conditions of life imposed by Israel in Gaza, resulting in preventable mortality of children, exacerbating morbidity and serious mental trauma from the relentless and widespread attacks by Israel over 2 years, collectively revealing severe, multi-layered harm to Palestinian children's survival, health, and development. Further, the Commission examines how Israeli soldiers mock and weaponize symbols of childhood in Gaza, raising ethical and disciplinary and legal questions about the conduct of Israeli security forces during the ground invasion of Gaza. Lastly, the Commission provides recommendations to diverse stakeholders for the cessation of attacks, reparations, accountability, and international enforcement of sanctions aimed at advancing child-responsive justice. So, just to recap, this is from the United Nations. This is their findings. Also, you can find this. In the description. I'm going to post a link to the United Nations page, their documents, and where to find it. All the links will be there. The conference room paper of the Independent International Commission. One more time. Are you trying to get my attention?
Yeah, I said I have a quick question. You know, after the US and Israel bombed the school that killed 120 children, they have now bombed a hospital, killing women and children. When are Trump and Netanyahu going to face war crimes?
Yeah, unfortunately, if Israel faces war crimes, that means the United States must as well.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so if Netanyahu and Trump are allowed to walk away, it's going to be a case of what they done with Blair and Bush, just letting them free.
Yeah. Well, and this is why, and this is why the United States is not part of the International Criminal Court. Because we know if we were a part of the International Criminal Court, we could be held liable ourselves. Oh, and we can't have that.
Yeah, did you hear about Trump and Netanyahu bombing a cancer hospital?
No. I haven't gotten that news yet.
I will send you the article.
Thank you. All right, let's continue. The conference room paper of the Independent International Commission of Inquiry of the Occupied Palestinian Territory, including East Jerusalem and Israel, the commission examines Israeli violations and crimes against Palestinian children in the occupied Palestinian territory, as well as the short to long-term impact of the children between October 7th and March 31st of 2026. So October 2023 and March 2026. The commission has published 4 mandated reports and 4 conference room papers since October 7th, 2023. This report presents the Commission's new and expanded findings on the international targeting, arrests and ill treatment, sexual and gender-based violence, attacks on educational facilities and healthcare, the conditions imposed in the occupied Palestinian territory, which directly affect children, For the purpose of this report, a child means every human being below the age of 18 years, consistent with Article 1 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. October 7th, 2023, the Commission has sent 13 requests for information and or access of the government of Israel, 4 requests for information to the state of Palestine, and 1 request for information to the Ministry of Health in the Gaza Strip. The state of Palestine and the Ministry of Health in the Gaza Strip provided information to the Commission. No responses were received from the government of Israel. That's a shocker. The Commission's comprehensive findings on violations and abuses against Israeli children committed by the military wing of Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups on and since October 7th, 2023, were presented in its report to the Human Rights Council in June 2024 and the General Assembly in October 2024, as well as in a separate conference room paper published in June 2024. In these reports, the Commission found that Israeli children were subjected to physical and emotional mistreatment on October 7th, 2023. In addition to the 40 children who were killed and hundreds injured, many children lost one or both parents. Many children witnessed the killing of their parents and siblings and were also filmed for propaganda purposes by Palestinian armed groups who published videos depicting Israeli children in vulnerable positions while they were under the control of the armed elements. The Commission finds it participated egregiously that children were targeted for abduction, several of them taken alone. The Commission concluded that Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups committed war crimes and crimes against humanity, including against Israeli children and child hostages. So therefore, Israel cannot claim that they're targeting Israel only. This commission, this paper also documents crimes against Israeli children. The report brings together the Commission's finding on violations and crimes against the affecting Palestinian children in the occupied Palestinian territory from October 7th, 2023 until March 31st, 2026, with a particular focus on the Gaza Strip. The Commission applied an integrated child rights analysis in preparing this report to examine holistically all aspects of Palestinian children's lives and development, including the harm caused by Israeli attacks on their physical and emotional, social, and cognitive well-being. The Commission applied the same methodology and standard of proof previously adopted for all of its investigations. Multiple sources of information were consulted. Thousands of open-source items were collected and verified. A remote and in-person interviews and group discussions with victims and witnesses were conducted. The Commission attempted, to the extent possible, to incorporate children's own perspectives through carrying out interviews and group discussions with them. The Commission's interactions with children were conducted in alignment with the principles of best interests of the child and do not harm, and the right of the child is participate and to be heard in matters affecting them. Informed consent was obtained in accordance with established protocols. Prior to engaging with a child, the Commission received informed consent from a parent, caregiver, or other appropriate adult, such as a guardian or other adult associated with organizations with a duty of care towards the child. After which, the Commission obtained verbal and informed consent and assent of the child, depending on the age, indicating their willingness to participate. In conducting interviews for this report, the Commission recognizes and attempted to minimize the risk of re-traumatizing children and their families, especially when they had lost a child. Where it assessed that the risk of re-traumatization was high, the Commission did not contact the family directly, but relied on information already collected by independent national and international organizations, as well as open-source published photographs and videos assessed as credible and used for the purposes of analysis and corroboration. The Commission received information about healthcare workers, members of academia, journalists, lawyers who had been in contact with victims and their families. The Commission received evidence such as medical reports, including X-radiation, X-rays, photographs, videos, audio statements of patients who had been given consent to share the information with the Commission. The Commission consulted 2 independent forensic pathologists who provided forensic analysis of the evidence, including computed tomography, CT scans, medical reports, photographs, videos, and the children who were shot and either killed, maimed, Open source material were forensically collected in accordance with international standards of the preservation of web-based content and rules of admissibility of digital evidence. Where needed, open source material was verified through comprehensive cross-reference with a broad, varied collection of reputable sources, and complemented by advanced forensic examinations, including media. Let's see, including visual media, um, authentication, geolocation, chronolocation analysis, metadata, extraction, and face recognition. A full list of sources used for the present report is on file with the Commission. The Commission has sought to include a broad range of topics and themes in the report and is aware that, in addition, there are other issues that fall within the scope of violation against children in armed conflict. This includes report of the use of children by the parties of the conflict. These have not yet been investigated by the Commission. Applicable legal framework. Under international law, the occupied Palestinian territory, including the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip, remains subject to belligerent occupation by Israel, to which international humanitarian law applies concurrently with international human rights law. The Commission finds that Gaza continues to be under Israeli occupation because of Israel's control over the enclave's airspace, territorial waters, land border crossings, as well as the reestablishment of the Israeli military presence and control on the ground in Gaza since October 2023. This has been affirmed by the International Court of Justice in July 2024. Israel, therefore, is bound by obligation incumbent upon the occupying power under international humanitarian law as set forth in the Fourth Geneva Convention, and customary international law includes the regulations annexed to the 1907 Hague Convention respecting the laws and customs of war on land. 1907 Hague Regulations. The Commission affirms that children are rights holders whose rights are enshrined in human rights instruments. Children are entitled to all the rights of human beings, as well as the rights held by them alone as children, including under Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UDHR. Let me go ahead and get that. Make sure I have a copy of that. There we go. Which entitles them to special care, assistance, and social protection. And under the Convention of the Rights of the Child, this heightened protection applies to all Palestinian children under the occupation of Israel as an occupying power in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. This special status of children is stipulated under international human rights law, international humanitarian law, international criminal law, and customary international law, which together recognize the persons under 18 have distinct needs and vulnerabilities that require additional safeguards in situations of armed conflict, occupation, and law enforcement. Israel has signed and ratified the CRC and two of its optional protocols, and therefore is legally bound by their provisions. The CRC obliges Israel to respect and ensure all rights in the convention to every child within its jurisdiction without discrimination of any kind, including on the basis of race, national or ethnic origin, disability, gender, religion, or other status, thereby covering Palestinian children across the occupied territory where Israel exercises effective control. The CRC requires Israel to ensure for Palestinian children enjoyment of all rights without discrimination, their best interests as a primary consideration in all decisions affecting them, a protection of their right to life, survival, and development, respect of their right to be heard and have their views taken into account in all matters affecting them. The CRC protects children from the unlawful or arbitrary detention, allows lawful detention only as a last resort and for the shortest appropriate time. and requires humane treatment, access to assistance, family contact, and the ability to challenge detention for those who are detained. Other human rights treaties binding on Israel reinforce and deepen these special protections for Palestinian children. During its review of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, Israel maintained its longstanding position that it does not have legal scroll down legal responsibility under the CRC for Palestinian children in the occupied Palestinian territory, including Gaza. The UN Committee, in its concluding observations adopted on September 13th, 2024, again regretted its position of Israel, characterizing it as a repeated denial of Israel's obligation towards Palestinian children. The Commission, aligning its position with the UN Committee, reaffirms that Israel is a state party to the CRC, is obligated to ensure the protection of children's rights beyond its sovereign territory, whereas it exercises effective control, including Palestinian children, in the occupied Palestinian territory. Customary international law recognizes that children in armed conflict are entitled to special protection, including priority access to relief, safeguards in evacuation, family reunification, prohibits their recruitment or use in hostilities. Together with treaty law, it requires Israel to treat Palestinian children as a particularly protected group whose specific needs must guide all security, administrative, and military decisions. International humanitarian law applies in Gaza, which is considered to be under belligerent occupation, based on the 14th Geneva Convention. Its additional protocol, the 1907 Hague Regulations, the Commission notes that the Palestinian children are protected persons and benefit from broad protections. Israel must avoid attacks expected to cause excessive incidental civilian harm, including to children, relative to anticipated legitimate military advantage. It must take all feasible precautions to minimize harm, such as choosing appropriate means, methods, suspending disproportionate attacks, and issue effective warnings where possible, and especially protect densely populated areas, schools, hospitals, and facilities essential to children's survival. The obligation to minimize harm includes the provision of medical care and evacuation to civilians, including children, injured as a result of military operations. As an occupying power, Israel has extensive duties towards the protected civilian population, especially children. It must, to the fullest extent of the means available, ensure the provision of adequate food and medical supplies, maintain medical and hospital services, and facilitate the work of relief organizations to meet children's needs. It is prohibited from imposing collective penalties or other measures that result in widespread deprivation among children. Internment or administrative detention of protected civilians should be an exceptional measure of last resort, permissible only when the security of the detaining power makes it absolutely necessary. This standard is even more restrictive when applied to children. In light of their dependency and developmental needs, the internment of children must be considered a highly exceptional measure, justified only by demonstrable, individualized, imperative security reasons, and never used as a tool of general deterrence, population control, retaliation, or collective punishment. General security assertions, broad categories of suspected behavior, or assumptions based on association, family ties, or place of residence cannot satisfy the strict necessity test for the internment of a child, and any doubt must be resolved in favor of non-detention of a child. In line with the best interest and do no harm. When children are deprived of liberty lawfully or unlawfully, International and humanitarian law requires that they be treated at all times with humanity and protected from all acts of violence, intimidation, insults, and public curiosity. Children must be held in condition that fully take account of their age and needs. They should be accommodated separately from unrelated adults unless it is demonstrably in their best interests not to be. In facilities that safeguard their physical and mental health and provide adequate space, light, ventilation, sanitation, and nutrition, as well as access to education, recreation, and age-appropriate health care, regular contact with their families must be facilitated as a matter of priority through visits, correspondence, and other means of communication, recognizing the centrality of family life to a child's well-being. Prolonged or indefined internment without effective periodic review or based on secret evidence, or harsh punitive crimes aimed at breaking children's will or extracting information, conflict in all circumstances with the combined requirements of international humanitarian law and international human rights law and other juvenile justice instruments. Under international humanitarian law, the dead, including children, must be respected and their remains treated with dignity. Parties to the conflict must facilitate recovery, identification, and wherever possible, return their remains to families to ensure burial in accordance with religious and cultural tradition to permit relatives to mourn. The Commission reiterates Israel's existing obligation under international humanitarian law and international human rights law are mutually reinforcing in providing protection for Palestinian children against all violations. International criminal law, as codified in the Rome Statute, and customary international law defines genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes, and recognizes that these offenses may be committed against children and produce children-specific harms. Crimes under the Rome Statute can have age-specific elements in their intent, commissions, or consequences, included when the conduct is directed at children as a distinct group or when children undergo particular forms of suffering. Children enjoy specific protection due to their inherent vulnerability and subordinate stature, compounded by the discrimination that heightens their risk of harm and impedes enjoyment of their human rights. It is also essential to recognize that abuse of power, central to such inequities and discrimination, exposes children to specific vulnerabilities, including sexual violence and exploitation, particularly in captivity or conflict settings. The Commission recognizes children are independent rights holders under the international law and reiterates that crimes against the affected children are a primary of Commission's investigative and accountability work. As stated in the Commission's first report in the Human Rights Council in May 2022, furthermore, the Commission refers to its previous recommendation in September 2023 that the UN Secretary General list Israel in the annexes of the next annual report, 2024, on children and armed conflict, following which the Israeli security forces were listed in the annexes of the 2024 Secretary General's annual report in connection with grave violations, particularly for killing and maiming of Palestinian children and attacks on schools and hospitals, signaling sustained concern about patterns of serious harm to children and reinforcing the need for independent and effective investigations to bring those responsible to justice where appropriate. Physical harm against Palestinian children by Israel. Here's a quote. "You will die, your children will die, your grandchildren will die. They won't be a Palestinian state. There won't be." Hanak Milwitsky, member of the Knesset Likud terrorist group. Child casualties due to Israel's use of explosive weapons in populated areas. Until the 7th of October 2023, roughly half of the population of the Gaza Strip was under the age of 18. These children had already lived their entire lives under the Israeli blockade and occupation, experiencing multiple rounds of hostilities and trauma. Between October 7th and October 7th, 2025, so between 2023 and 2025, at least 20,000 children were killed, 44,000 children were injured as a direct result of the hostilities in Gaza, constituting 30% of those killed and 26% of those injured during this period. The commission notes the increase in the proportion of children killed in comparison to previous escalations of hostilities, wherein children made up approximately 24% of the conflict-related fatalities in escalation of hostilities of 2008 through 2009 and 2014. Children killed in Gaza represent around 2% of Gaza's 1.2 million child population. By October 2025, at least 5,000 children under 5 years were killed during this period, of whom 1,000 children were under the age of 1, and some 420 were newborns. The commission notes the number of children killed and injured from the hostilities in Gaza is certainly higher than the one reported. Some 5,160 children are estimated by Save the Children to be buried under the rubble. Additionally, unknown numbers of children are buried in unmarked graves without their deaths being recorded or simply missing. Over the 2-year period, child casualties in Gaza have varied significantly across different phases of the hostilities, reflecting shifts in the intensity, geographic spread, and Israeli military tactics and operations. Timeline of key events is noted in Annex 1 at the end of this report. The Commission has previously noted that the increase in child casualties absolutely and proportionally in comparison with previous escalations of hostilities is due to Israeli security forces' use of explosive weapons with wide area effects and an expansion of its targeting criteria without taking adequate precautions, resulting in high child casualties among family members, neighbors, and displaced communities at large. On December 2023, Israeli security forces issued a statement about its targeting approach in Gaza. Quote, whereas in the past operations of wars, Israel has been more selective or accurate with regards of the exact types of Hamas targets struck, given that Israel's overall objective was limited to diminishing Hamas capabilities, Israel is now focused on dismantling Hamas capabilities altogether, causing maximum damage to Hamas military capabilities in their entirety. The Commission found that the statement by the Israeli security forces, in conjunction with its practice on the ground, indicates blanket permission to target civilian locations widely in Gaza. Israeli military operations in Gaza have been marked by the extensive use of explosive weapons and heavy munitions with the wide area destructive capacity in residential areas, resulting in the complete destruction of residential neighborhoods. The extensive use of such weapons in Gaza has had a significant impact on child casualties. Research indicates that children are 7 times more likely to die than adults from the impact of explosive weapons due to their physiological vulnerability, that is, proportionately larger body surface area, pliable bones, smaller limbs, and thinner skin. Due to the smaller size and lighter weight, children are also at a greater risk of being thrown from the impact of blasts. Blast injuries are more likely to kill younger children than older children, as evidenced in the age breakdown in the child fatalities in Gaza. Israeli airstrikes in Gaza have wiped out entire families. On May 23, 2025, in Khan Yunis, 2 Israeli airstrikes targeted a residential home, killing 9 of 10 children and the father. Both parents were doctors. The only surviving child, an 11-year-old boy, was critically injured and, along with his mother, was evacuated for medical treatment. Israeli security forces reportedly said that it was investigating the incident. However, the Commission is not aware of any outcome of such investigation. The killing and injuring of children continued through the temporary pause in fighting, revealing that each pause of fighting was repeatedly failed to protect the most vulnerable. In one example, in March 18th, 2025, the pause was ended by Israel by launching waves of airstrikes across Gaza without prior warning, killing at least 170 children by midday. Between 18 and 31 of March 2025, airstrikes, bombardment, and ground operations by Israeli security forces killed at least 322 children and injured 609 children, amounting to killing or injuring at least 100 Palestinian children per day in a span of 2 weeks alone. That's just the
So
children.
far-
We're not even talking about the adult civilians.
No. So far to date,
Yeah.
over 18,000 children have been killed or injured in the Middle East conflict so far. That's without counting the adults.
Yeah.
1,800 children. That's disgusting.
By the way, if you're American listening to this, this is your tax dollars at work. This is what your tax dollars have paid. We have paid for the bombardment and the massacre of children.
Also, as well, new reports in the hospital, the cancer hospital with the children. First reports in because the bombs were landing so close. It was reported that the hospital itself was hit, but it's looking like the hospital itself wasn't hit, but the cancer patients have been relocated to a safer, hopefully safer place. But a few people have been injured due to how close the bombs had hit to the cancer hospital.
Let that sink in.
I can't get over how disgusting it is. Sorry, I'll let you get back to the art.
Nope, that's okay. In January 2025, the UN Mine Action Service, let me just go ahead and copy that. I want to make sure I get all these organizations and acronyms. They warned that between 5 and 10% of Israeli ammunition used in Gaza had failed to detonate, leaving behind very significant quantities of unexploded ordnance among at least 61 million tons of rubble and debris. Unexploded ordnance is particularly deadly for children as they are more naively curious than adults and are often unable to recognize the hazard. In one instance, the commission documented an incident on October 24th, 2025, where 7-year-old twin boys and a girl and a boy were severely injured from an unexploded ordnance after mistaking it for a toy near their house in Gaza City. The twins were admitted to the Shifa hospital, where the boy's right hand had to be amputated, while the girl sustained a fracture in her leg, risking losing it. A doctor described their injuries as life-threatening. All right, let's continue. The overwhelming scale and rate of children killed and injured in Gaza have been unparalleled across modern conflicts globally. Israel's conduct in Gaza since the October 7th, 2023, and its harmful consequences on children have led UNICEF to rank the Gaza Strip as the most dangerous place in the world to be as a child. I mean, imagine. And what are these children going to be when they grow up? Can you imagine what they're going to be, having lived through this hell? Let's see. This is a quote from a doctor. It is difficult for Palestinians to know where the yellow line is, as it is just some random yellow blocks placed at random distances, and there is nothing clearly marking it, no fences, so it is impossible for people, particularly children, to know or locate the line. This yellow line also keeps moving, and it is not an internationally recognized line. It is an arbitrary line by Israeli security forces. A ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas came into effect on October 2025, the third pause since the hostilities began. Hostilities did not cease, but rather they were reduced. The killing and the injuring of Palestinians, including children, did not stop. According to UNICEF, as of the 13th of January 2026, more than 100 children, at least 60 boys and 40 girls, have been killed since October 2025, while hundreds more had been wounded. On 10th of December 2025, a 16-year-old boy from Jabalia camp was shot and killed by Israeli forces, after which an Israeli tank ran over him, mutilating his body. Following the signing of the October 2025 ceasefire agreement, the Israeli military redeployed its forces to a newly established demarcation line dubbed as the Yellow Line inside Gaza. Israeli forces controlled the territory on one side and the line, and Hamas controlled the territory on the other side. The zone under Israeli control was declared prohibited to residents, and due to the lack of clarity regarding the precise location of this boundary, civilians, including children, have been shot after unintentionally crossing it while attempting to return to their homes or fetching firewood in the aftermath of hostilities. According to Israeli security forces, concrete barriers were installed at intervals of 200 meters along the Yellow Line. In certain areas, the markings were reportedly positioned deep within Hamas-controlled territory, effectively enlarging the zone under Israeli control. On November 29th, 2025, two brothers aged 10 and 9 were killed in an Israeli drone strike near Bani Suhaila, east of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. The boys were gathering firewood for their wheelchair-bound father when the strike occurred. Israeli security forces stated that the soldiers spotted two suspects crossing the Yellow Line, acted suspiciously, and approaching their forces as a drone eliminated the immediate threat. At the outset, the commission notes that the boys were located more than 300 meters from the Israeli soldiers' rifles, meaning that they could not have posed any immediate threat from such a distance. The soldiers should not have classified the boys as suspects in the first place, since they were clearly involved only in collecting firewood. The soldier failed to adequately assess the ages of the boys, their intentions, and capabilities as a threat. The commission finds that the Israeli secret forces, or security forces, Kafir Brigade, were operating in that area. So basically, Israeli security terrorists. We'll just call them terrorists. The commission is not aware of any formal investigation initiated by the Israeli security forces against those responsible. Similar to other attacks which have not been investigated to date, underscoring a systematic impunity relating to the killing of Palestinian children, Palestinians including children. By maintaining that the children killed were suspects, the Israeli security forces have deflected responsibility to Palestinian children, portraying them as terrorists rather than casualties. Such tactics by the Israeli security forces serve to distort the factual narrative and further marginalize affected children and their families. The Commission is particularly concerned with increasing incidents of targeting and killing Palestinians, including children, near the Yellow Line, an emphasis that demarcation lines should be clearly defined and communicated to avoid harm to civilians. The Commission considers the Yellow Line to be particularly problematic since it is essentially enforced without transparent warning systems or safe passage channels. Subsequently, Palestinians are targeted without any investigation or due process. The targeting of civilians, including children, along the Yellow Line served as the latest evidence of a low value of Palestinian lives, including children in Gaza. It reflects a grave policy failure, one that undermines the credibility of the ceasefire itself and perpetuates the condition of reoccurring violence, which explains the continuous incidents of children getting killed post-ceasefire. The impact of explosive weapons, serious injuries, and lifelong disabilities of children. Quote, without warning, around 4 or 5 explosions hit in the front of the school. I ran outside to find my 3-year-old nephew, whose parents were killed in a previous airstrike, covered in blood with his legs cut off, signaling with both his hands for me to pick him up and save him. This was the uncle of the 3-year-old orphan boy who was severely injured in 3 different attacks. Jesus fucking Christ.
Not to mention the soldiers that are point blank shooting these children in the head and chests. They are monsters.
We might have to do part 2 and 3.
Okay.
Let's see how far I can go. Injured children have suffered from what is medically known as polytrauma, or multiple trauma impacting multiple body parts at once, such as bone fractures, significant soft tissue damage, brain and spine injuries, nerve and organ damage, and perforating wounds. In one example investigated by the Commission between 20 and 21st of December 2023, the Sheikh Radwan Israeli soldiers threw 4 hand grenades inside a house with 30 family members without any warning, severely injuring a 5-year-old boy who suffered from multiple injuries, including abdominal evisceration. The Israeli security forces then forcibly entered the house, shot and killed 8 family members, including the parents, and ordered the survivors to evacuate to a nearby school. The Israeli security forces did not provide any medical assistance to the injured or assist with their evacuation. The boy was carried from the house to the school with severe injuries. He lost consciousness at the school while he was treated by a doctor who reinserted his exposed intestines by using diapers and taped his stomach. He was taken to Al Shifa hospital, where he underwent surgery alone. Later, the boy was medically evacuated out of Gaza and underwent 8 surgeries, while 3 more were still needed as of December 2025. The boy has been left with a permanent disability in one of his legs and has to use a wheelchair. The boy and his surviving 6-year-old brother suffer from severe mental harm and behavioral change as a result of the incidents, in particular since they witnessed the brutal shooting of their parents by the Israeli security forces, including their pregnant mother shot in the abdomen and breast and father in the head. Mental harm against Palestinian children by Israel. The Commission finds that Israeli soldiers of the 162nd Division, specifically the 401st Brigade and Shayelet 13, were operating in the area at the time of this incident. A number of healthcare workers told the Commission that children have suffered internal damage, including organ rupture, contusions, and internal bleeding, but without any external sign of the bodies, which made it harder for medical personnel to recognize the cause of the injury or death and the true extent of the harm. They also noted seeing injuries of unusual severity, which are exceptionally complex to treat in Gaza, and which will result in lifelong consequences. This includes traumatic brain and spinal cord injuries, fracture, and extensive burns. Injuries of children also have caused severe vision and hearing loss. Children have suffered from traumatic eye injuries, including retina detachment, leading to documented cases of partial or complete blindness.
That is absolutely terrible. That's heartbreaking, that is.
All right, let me pick it up here. This includes traumatic brain and spinal cord injuries, fractures, extensive burns. Injuries to children have also caused severe vision and hearing loss. Children have suffered from traumatic eye injuries, including retinal detachment, including documented cases of partial or complete blindness and severe vision impairment. A study of children not numbers found 48% of vision impairment cases were caused by traumatic injuries that were undiagnosed, untreated, and irreversible. Similarly, children have been experiencing, let's see if I can say this, sensorineural hearing loss due to constant exposure to ear-shattering sounds from explosions and shelling, as well as direct injuries. As of June 2025, an estimated 10,000 children in Gaza have hearing loss, with 5,000 experiencing severe hearing loss, primarily due to injuries, making them unable to hear evacuation orders or warnings about attacks. Traumatic injuries have also resulted in complex limb wounds, recurring amputations. Within the first 3 months of the Israeli attack, October through December 2023, UNICEF reported that over 1,000 children had one or more of their limbs amputated. In December 2024, the UN Secretary General declared that Gaza had the highest number of children amputees per capita anywhere in the world. Let me go ahead and grab this organization real quick. All right. Scroll down. Many losing limbs and undergoing surgeries without even anesthesia. In one example, on December 19th, 2023, a Palestinian doctor amputated the leg of his 17-year-old niece who was injured from an airstrike using household implements and without anesthetic. I remember this. I remember reading this. Since the neighborhood was encircled by Israeli military tanks and vehicles, the family could not take the girl to a hospital and she had to be operated on at home. In interviews to the media, the girl said, "They placed a bucket under me, turned on flashlights to see the arteries, and then he cut my leg off without anesthetic." Jesus fuck. As of April 5th of 2025, the Ministry of Health in Gaza recorded approximately 846 cases of children with amputations, accounting for almost 18% of the 4,700 cases of amputations then recorded. The commission investigated several cases of amputation, including a case of a 3-year-old boy who lost both legs because of an attack of an UNRWA school in November 2023. Doctors told the commission that the boy will need to use a wheelchair or prosthetics if he can get them for the rest of his life. His parents and his younger brother have been killed. They were killed in October 2023. Doctors told commission that the child amputees need an average of 8 to 12 surgeries before reaching adulthood to allow for the limbs to properly grow. However, the level of pediatric surgical care is not available in Gaza due to Israel's destruction of healthcare facilities, including access to prosthetic devices, acute rehabilitation services, and regular follow-ups. Prior to October 2023, there are 90,000 children living with a disability in Gaza. The UN Committee of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities so many organizations. And it doesn't mean a damn thing, does it? They estimated between October 7th, 2023 and September 3rd, 2025, at least 21,000 children were made newly disabled in Gaza, and approximately 40,500 children suffered war-related injuries. Children with disabilities are more vulnerable as a result of Israel's attacks, suffering also from the breakdown of essential services, including healthcare. Many children with disabilities have not had access to assistive devices, including wheelchairs, hearing aids, batteries, and other tools, due to Israel's blockade and affecting their ability to evacuate safely and to cope with extreme living conditions. Moreover, according to several reports, the hostilities have exacerbated pre-existing disabilities and medical conditions of children, resulting in functional decline and increased dependence, while the blockade of supplies and resulting limited services have increased vulnerability and hindered access to adequate care and support.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting that Israel and US troops are stopping humanitarian aid and medical supplies from going through to the Palestinian people that are in Gaza at the moment. That is absolutely disgusting, and I think both, and I'm sorry, I know you live in America, but I do think Trump and Netanyahu need to be charged with crimes against the Geneva Convention. It is absolutely disgusting what they're doing at the moment.
I'll read a little bit more. And then what we'll do is we'll stop and we'll do a continuation. Like we'll do part 1, part 2, part 3.
Okay, I will politely shut the fuck up till you finish then.
Because this is we're on page 13. We are not going to stop until this report is done. We're going to do this. I don't care, but I don't give a damn if it's every day until this report is completely read. Well, I'm on page 13. There's 94 pages left to go. A lot of it, I'm not reading any of the footnotes or I'm not reading any of the notations, citations, that sort of thing. I'm just sticking with the material. I'll read through page 14 and then we'll stop. But yeah, we're not going to stop. We're not going to move on to another subject until this is complete. And I will be putting this, I will start a new playlist. This will go under Israeli terrorism. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. All right. Deliberately targeting children by the Israeli security forces in the Gaza Strip. This is a quote from a doctor. Based on the clustering of injuries in the targeted body parts, I assess that the Israeli soldiers have been deliberately shooting teenage boys in a game of target practice, a different body part being targeted on different days. There's a very clear pattern that suggests this is a deliberate aiming of different body parts of children. The commission has investigated and documented cases demonstrating a consistent pattern of children being deliberately targeted by Israeli security forces in Gaza. These include cases of children being shot while trying to evacuate with their families and in places of refuge, such as displacement camps, food distribution sites, and other locations across Gaza. The commission has collected and analyzed and preserved videos, photographs, medical records, including CT scans, and reviewing investigative reports by several independent entities. The commission has also interviewed many witnesses, including medical professionals, and consulted 2 independent forensic pathologists in its analysis of the following incidences. The killing of a family of 7, including Hind Rahab and 4 other children in Tel Al-Hawa. January 29th, 2024. A Palestinian family of 7 and 2 paramedics in Palestinian Red Crescent Society ambulance attempted to assist them were attacked by Israeli security forces in Tel Hawa and Gaza City and killed. The commission's investigation confirmed the following details. At approximately 800 hours on January 29th, 2024, a man, along with his wife and their 4 children and 5.5-year-old niece named Hind Rahab, were trying to evacuate from Tel Hawa. At 1200, the family's eldest daughter, 15-year-old Lion, spoke with Hind's mother and confirmed that she and Hind were injured while the rest of the family were dead. At around 1445, Lion spoke with a Palestinian Red Crescent Society call line operator and said there was a tank next to the car. The operator heard the sound of gunshots in the call and Lion screaming. At this point, Lion was likely killed. Hind answered the subsequent call from PRCS with the sounds of gunfire in the background. In one of the calls, Hind told her mother that she had been shot in her upper arm, back, and foot. At approximately 1740 or 540, I don't know why they're using military time, a PRC's ambulance with 2 paramedics was dispatched from Al Ali Baptist Hospital in Gaza City after receiving clearance from Israel's coordination of government activities in the territories and the Ministry of Health in Gaza. The ambulance was about 200 meters from the car in which Hind was trapped when a red laser light pointed at the ambulance. The sound of heavy gunfire and tank shelling was heard over a call between the ambulance crew and the PRCS. The connection between the PRCS and the ambulance crew was lost at 7 o'clock p.m. or 6 p.m. Yeah, 6 p.m. And the call between Hind and her mother continued around 7 p.m. when Hind stopped talking. Hind likely died around that time. Hind's body, the bodies of 6 of her family members, and the charred remains of the 2 PRC's paramedics in the ambulance were recovered 12 days later. The PRCS could not access the location before then because of the presence of Israeli security forces in the area. Hind's car appeared to have been damaged and forcibly moved, likely by an Israeli armored bulldozer, and pushed against a concrete curb in front of the gas station, making it difficult to retrieve the bodies. The PRCS ambulance was found some 40 to 50 meters away from the car, burnt beyond recognition. The commission viewed videos of the site showing the crushed and charred remains of the ambulance with a human spine and hip. The spine and hip bones visibly inside the vehicle's remains. An exit hole of approximately 23 by 26 centimeters in the left rear door of the ambulance was found, consistent with the impact of a 120 millimeter high explosive anti-tank multi-purpose tracer, the Heat MPT round. The spent round was also found on site near the vehicle. An audio ballistic analysis of the shots heard in the call to Leon found that the car was shot at by a Fabrique Nationale machine gun, the MAG, M-A-G, mounted on an armored Israeli Merkava tank, likely from a distance of 13 to 23 meters. Fucking murderous terrorist bastards. Every single one. All right, I'm going to document this pages 1 through 14 so we know that we're going to continue on page 15. Yeah, we might have to read this in 4 parts. We'll do what we have to do, goddammit. I don't give a damn. I'm going to include the website here so that you can... Jesus Christ. Give me 1 second, folks. And then here's the page where you can find the full report if you want to read it yourself. Yeah, these are murderous bastards. I can see why. I can see why there are terrorist groups like Hamas. Yeah, fuck these guys. Israeli murdering bastards. Nah, they don't get any consideration from me. Nah. These are terrorists, and this is who we're supporting. This is who we're supporting. So, we're going to continue on with this report. I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you for tuning in and not tuning out. And like I said, if you want more independent media in your life, please consider supporting the show. Cash App, Venmo, or become a Patreon subscriber. Links are down in the description. We want to do this full time and not just in our spare time.
Thank you all for joining us today on such a serious subject. Thank you, Skeptically, for reading and going through that for us. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. We appreciate your support. We will be back on the flip side, continuing on from 14. We will keep the same background. We will probably just add a part 2 to the background, if that's okay with you, Skeptically.
You don't have to. I'm going to just put that in the title itself.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry. You don't have to go to extra trouble. We'll be okay.
I don't mind. There's no extra trouble. It's fine.
Understood. All right. Thanks, everybody.
We hope you all have a lovely Saturday, a lovely weekend, and hopefully we will catch you on the flip side. If not, we will catch you on a Tackle Tuesday.
Take care.
Good night, everyone.
Wake up, grab a brush and put a little makeup. Hide the scars to fade away. Why'd you leave the keys up on the table? Here you go, create another fable. You wanted to grab a brush and put a little makeup. You wanted to hide the scars to fade away with a shaker. You wanted to. Why'd you leave the keys up on the table? You wanted to. I don't think you trust